Some NFL players shine on the field.
Well, Tom, they said give Jamal the ball.
But off it, drugs and addiction are quietly destroying their lives.
Henry's actions this week may have included vandalism and drugs.
From Justin Blackmon.
Blackmon pleaded guilty after being arrested back in December on DUI charges.
Whose talent was erased by substance abuse, to Koren Robinson, whose alcohol and drug problems derailed a promising career. These are the NFL players who let addiction take over. Justin Blackmon. Justin Blackmon wasn't just another wide receiver, he was supposed to be a cornerstone. Coming out of Oklahoma State, Blackmon was dominant. He won 2 Biletnikoff Awards, earned unanimous All-American honors twice, and looked like the safest offensive prospect in the draft. The Jacksonville Jaguars believed they were getting a franchise player and selected him 5th overall in the 2012 NFL Draft. He wasn't drafted to grow into the role. He was drafted to carry the offense immediately. On the field, the talent was real. As a rookie in 2012, Blackmon caught 64 passes for 865 yards and 5 touchdowns on a bad Jaguars team with shaky quarterback play. Even then, he flashed #1 receiver ability, strong hands, physical routes, and the confidence to win contested catches. Coaches and teammates believed he could become one of the league's elite wideouts. But while his career was taking shape on Sundays, it was quietly collapsing off the field. Blackmon's issues started before his NFL career even began. Less than a month after being drafted, he was arrested for DUI in Oklahoma, with a blood alcohol level reported to be 3 times the legal limit. That arrest placed him in the NFL's substance abuse program immediately. In 2013, after failing an off-season drug test, he was suspended for the first 4 games of the season. When he returned, the Jaguars saw the same talent, but it didn't last. After just 4 games back, Blackmon was suspended indefinitely for a second violation of the league's substance abuse policy. He never played another NFL snap. What followed confirmed the pattern. In 2014, Blackmon was arrested for drug possession. In 2015, another DUI arrest followed. Each incident pushed him further from reinstatement and deeper into isolation from the league. Despite entering rehab at one point, Blackmon continued to insist the problem wasn't addiction, just poor decisions. The arrests said otherwise. The NFL requires strict compliance, long-term sobriety, and trust for reinstatement. Blackmon never met those standards. By age 25, Justin Blackmon became a drug addict whose repeated substance abuse erased elite talent, millions in guaranteed money, and a career that should have lasted a decade. Moving on, we have a player whose battle with alcohol addiction eventually spiraled into drug abuse. Koren Robinson. Koren Robinson wasn't just another fast receiver coming into the NFL. He was a top-tier prospect with game-breaking speed. Drafted 9th overall by the Seattle Seahawks in the 2001 NFL Draft, Robinson was expected to become a long-term weapon and a face of the franchise. Early on, he delivered. As a rookie, he stretched defenses, scored deep touchdowns, and showed the explosive ability teams covet in a #1 wideout. By mid-career, he had proven his value even more, earning a Pro Bowl selection with the Minnesota Vikings in 2005 as one of the league's most dangerous kickoff returners. Behind the scenes, Robinson was spiraling into alcohol addiction. His problems followed him from city to city, team to team. Multiple DUI arrests began stacking up, each one more damaging than the last. He wasn't just violating team rules. He was violating court orders and NFL policy simultaneously. In 2004, while with Seattle, Robinson was suspended 4 games for a second violation of the NFL's substance abuse policy. Alcohol wasn't a one-time mistake, it was a pattern. The situation exploded in 2006. Robinson was involved in a high-speed police chase while intoxicated, a moment that made his addiction impossible to ignore. The NFL responded with a minimum 1-year suspension for consuming alcohol while already enrolled in the league's substance abuse program. Seattle released him. His career, once full of momentum, was collapsing under repeated alcohol-fueled decisions. Robinson checked himself into a 30-day alcohol treatment facility in South Carolina, acknowledging that his drinking was out of control. He received another chance with the Vikings and briefly revived his career. In 2005, 2005, he made the Pro Bowl. But sobriety didn't last. Another DUI arrest in Minnesota followed, violating probation from a previous drunken driving conviction. That arrest led to a 90-day jail sentence and his release from the Vikings. Koren Robinson became an alcoholic whose addiction repeatedly overpowered elite talent. And within NFL circles, there were persistent rumors that his substance abuse extended beyond alcohol to drugs as well. Next up, we have an NFL player who was using drugs from a very young age. Ricky Williams. Ricky Williams wasn't just another running back. He was a phenomenon. In Texas, he rewrote the record books, won the 1998 Heisman Trophy, and became the most dominant college runner of his era. The New Orleans Saints were so convinced he was a franchise savior that they traded their entire draft to select him 5th overall in 1999. Expectations were enormous. Williams delivered flashes of brilliance early, but by the time he reached the Miami Dolphins, he fully exploded. In 2002, he led the entire NFL in rushing, earned first-team All-Pro honors, and carried Miami's offense almost by himself. Off the field, however, a different battle was already taking shape. Williams became deeply dependent on cannabis early in his NFL career. What started as a coping mechanism quickly became a habit he couldn't control. He used cannabis constantly to manage pain, anxiety, and the mental pressure of football. Over time, that dependence crossed into addiction. The NFL's strict substance abuse policy caught him repeatedly. He failed multiple drug tests, entered the league's program, and found himself under constant surveillance. In 2004, facing another failed test and an impending suspension, Williams abruptly walked away from the Dolphins just days before training camp. But Williams returned in 2005, only to be suspended again. In 2006, after violating the substance abuse policy for the 4th time, he was suspended for an entire season. Williams admitted he was tested over 500 times by the NFL and failed at least 5 drug tests. While he later framed cannabis as self-medication, the reality was clear. He couldn't stop using it, even when it cost him his career. Up next, we have a player who became addicted to an extremely dangerous drug. Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin wasn't just another wide receiver, he was the playmaker. Drafted by the Dallas Cowboys in 1988, Irvin became the emotional engine of one of the greatest dynasties in NFL history. Alongside Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith, he formed the Triplets, leading Dallas to 3 Super Bowl titles in the 1990s. Behind the scenes, Michael Irvin developed a serious drug addiction that nearly destroyed everything he built. Cocaine became a regular part of his lifestyle during his peak years in Dallas. In March 1996, just 1 month after winning his 3rd Super Bowl, Irvin was arrested in a Texas hotel room where police found cocaine, cannabis, drug paraphernalia, and multiple women. The charges were severe. He faced up to 20 years in prison for felony drug possession. Irvin eventually pleaded no contest, received 4 years of deferred probation, paid fines, and was suspended for the first 5 games of the 1996 season by the NFL. Irvin later admitted that drugs and chaos were normalized parts of his daily routine, including a house near the Cowboys facility, known internally as the White House, where partying, drugs, and women were constant. Despite public denials at the time, Irvin was addicted and losing control. In 1998, he stabbed a teammate in the neck with scissors during a barbershop fight. After his NFL retirement in 1999, the problems didn't stop. In 2001, Irvin was arrested again on felony drug possession charges. In 2005, police found drug paraphernalia in his car during another arrest. For years, Irvin tried to reframe his issues as anything but addiction. However, after retirement, Irvin finally admitted the truth. He had been switching addictions, not solving them. On the other hand, we have a player who became addicted to drugs but tried to deny it throughout his NFL career. Andre Rison. Andre Rison wasn't just another wide receiver, he was electric. Nicknamed Bad Moon Rison, he entered the NFL with speed, confidence, and instant star power. Drafted by the Indianapolis Colts in 1989, Rison quickly became one of the league's most dangerous playmakers, later starring for the Atlanta Falcons, Cleveland Browns, and several other teams. He earned 5 Pro Bowl selections in 4 straight seasons during the early 1990s and built a reputation as a big play specialist who thrived thrived in pressure moments. At his peak, Ryson had everything: talent, fame, money, and Super Bowl-level relevance. In 1997, he even caught a 54-yard touchdown in Super Bowl 31 to help the Green Bay Packers win a championship. But while Ryson bounced between teams making highlight reel plays, his life off the field was unraveling. As the years went on, Andre Rison developed a growing dependence on substances, particularly cannabis, which became his coping mechanism for physical pain and personal chaos. What started as pain management slowly turned into habitual use that followed him long after his playing days ended. By the late 2000s, Rison's substance abuse was no longer quiet or controlled. In 2008, he was arrested for public intoxication in San Antonio, another sign that addiction had crept into his daily life. The pattern worsened in the 2010s. In 2016, Rison violated federal probation after repeatedly testing positive for cannabis, despite court orders prohibiting drug use. Each failed test reinforced the reality that he couldn't stop, even when legal consequences were staring him in the face. Moving on, we have a player who fell victim to hard drug addiction: Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor wasn't just another player, he was the linebacker. Drafted second overall by the New York Giants in 1981, Taylor didn't ease into the NFL. He detonated it. He won Defensive Rookie of the Year immediately, then somehow added Defensive Player of the Year in that same season. That had never happened before. By the mid-1980s, Taylor wasn't just dominant, he was rewriting how defense was played. In 1986, he recorded 20.5 sacks, won league MVP as a defensive player, and led the Giants to a Super Bowl, 2 championships, 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards, 8 first-team All-Pros. Lawrence Taylor was pure chaos, perfectly controlled, at least on the field. But off the field, control didn't exist. Taylor's drug use began early, long before retirement and decline. By his own admission, he was already using cocaine by his second NFL season. What started as partying quickly turned into dependency. Taylor has said he was fully addicted by the mid-1980s, even as he was terrorizing quarterbacks on Sundays. He failed an NFL drug test in 1987 and narrowly avoided punishment. A year later, he failed again and was suspended for 30 days, a rare punishment at the time for a superstar of his magnitude. Teammates later revealed he used other players' urine to pass tests. For the rest of his playing career, Taylor managed to stay clean enough to avoid a lifetime ban. But the moment football ended in 1994, the structure disappeared and the addiction exploded. Taylor has admitted that he smoked crack cocaine immediately after his final NFL game. From there, it spiraled fast. He was spending over $1,000 a day on drugs and prostitutes. He was arrested multiple times in the late 1990s for attempting to buy crack cocaine from undercover police officers. Also, Taylor entered drug rehabilitation several times, and there were stretches of sobriety, but addiction never fully let go. Next up, we have a player who got involved in numerous illegal activities and ultimately became a drug addict: Chris Henry. Chris Henry wasn't just another wide receiver trying to survive in the NFL. He was supposed to be a breakout star. Coming out of West Virginia, Henry had size, speed, and natural deep ball ability that couldn't be taught. The Cincinnati Bengals saw that upside and selected him in the 3rd round of the 2005 NFL Draft, believing they had found a dangerous vertical threat. On the field, the talent showed quickly. At 6'4", Henry stretched defenses and became one of Cincinnati's best downfield weapons. When locked in, he looked like a future starter, even a possible star. Coaches believed his ceiling was high. Teammates saw the flashes. But while his NFL career was gaining momentum, his life off the field was already unraveling. Henry's problems began early and escalated fast. Almost immediately after entering the league, he started racking up arrests tied directly to substance abuse. Between 2006 and 2007, Henry was suspended for a total of 14 games under the NFL's substance abuse and personal conduct policies. At one point, the situation grew so bad that Bengals owner Mike Brown released him outright, a rare move for a team known for tolerating troubled talent. Despite multiple chances, Henry couldn't stay clean. The league placed him under strict monitoring. Each time he returned, addiction followed close behind. His arrests weren't isolated mistakes. They were symptoms of a growing drug and alcohol addiction that he struggled to control. There were moments when it looked like Henry might quite escape it. In 2008 and 2009, he returned to the Bengals and played meaningful snaps. He reduced public drinking, focused more on football, and became engaged. On the field, he re-emerged as Cincinnati's top deep threat during a playoff push. To outsiders, it appeared he was finally turning the corner. But addiction doesn't disappear quietly. In December 2009, following a domestic dispute, Henry fell from the back of a moving pickup truck and suffered fatal injuries. He was just 26 years old. After his death, doctors discovered Henry had CTE, a degenerative brain disease linked to repeated head trauma. Up next, we have a player who began with soft drugs, but eventually spiraled into hard drug addiction. Todd Marinovich. Todd Marinovich wasn't just another quarterback prospect. He was supposed to be different. Coming out of USC, Marinovich was labeled the robo-quarterback, a product of an extreme, carefully engineered upbringing designed to create football perfection. He led USC to a Rose Bowl victory as a freshman, became the first sophomore ever to declare for the NFL draft, and was selected by the Los Angeles Raiders in the first round of the 1991 NFL draft. The Raiders believed they were getting their future franchise quarterback. He wasn't drafted to sit and learn. He was drafted to lead. On the field, the talent was obvious. Marinovich started games as a rookie, showed confidence, mobility, and arm strength, and even became the first rookie quarterback to start a playoff game in Raiders history. But while his NFL career was unfolding, his drug addiction was already firmly in control. He admitted to using cannabis daily in high school and college, often before practices and games. By the time he reached the Raiders, cannabis wasn't enough. He began abusing cocaine, ecstasy, and alcohol, frequently going on multi-day binges. He failed multiple drug tests and resorted to using teammates' urine to avoid suspension. Eventually, the league caught up. After repeated failed tests, Marinovich was released by the Raiders in 1992. His NFL career effectively ended after just 2 seasons. What followed was not recovery, but escalation. After football, Marinovich's addiction spiraled out of control. He moved from cocaine to heroin, crack, and methamphetamine. Arrests became routine. He was arrested for drug possession while still at USC, later for growing cannabis, then again for heroin possession. In 2007, he pleaded guilty to felony meth possession and syringe charges. Rehab stints followed, but sobriety never lasted. In 2016, Marinovich was arrested again after being found naked in a neighbor's backyard while in possession of meth and drug paraphernalia. Marinovich later admitted he spent decades cycling through heavy drug use, often using whatever substances were available just to escape reality. He described spending thousands of dollars on drugs, living on the streets at times, and losing nearly every opportunity football had once given him. On the other hand, we have a player who fell into drug use during his NFL career and ultimately ended up in jail. Jamal Lewis. Jamal Lewis wasn't just another running back. He was supposed to be unstoppable. Coming out of Tennessee, Lewis was built like a wrecking ball and ran like one too. The Baltimore Ravens believed they were drafting a future superstar and selected him 5th overall in the 2000 NFL draft. He wasn't brought in to share carries or develop slowly. He was drafted to dominate immediately, and he did. As a rookie, Lewis helped power Baltimore to a Super Bowl 35 victory, becoming the youngest player to ever win a Super Bowl. By 2003, he was at the peak of the football world, rushing for 2,066 yards, winning AP Offensive Player of the Year, and recording a then-record 295 rushing yards in a single game. On the field, Jamal Lewis looked like a Hall of Fame talent. Off the field, a darker story was already forming. Lewis's drug-related issues traced back to before his historic 2003 season. In 2004, federal prosecutors indicted him for attempting to help a childhood friend purchase cocaine from a government informant. The case stemmed from a wiretapped phone call made years earlier, but the damage was immediate. Lewis eventually pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of using a cell phone to facilitate a drug deal. The NFL responded by suspending him for violating the league's substance abuse policy, his second violation. In 2005, Lewis served 4 months in federal prison, followed by time in a halfway house, paid a $100,000 fine, and completed 500 hours of community service. Though he returned to the NFL and continued playing, the league no longer viewed him the same way. He finished his career with the Cleveland Cleveland Browns and quietly retired after the 2009 season. After retirement, Lewis remained connected to drugs, not as rumors, but through repeated legal trouble. In 2017, he pleaded guilty to conspiracy to possess and distribute cocaine, admitting involvement in trafficking. Moving on, we have a player who fell into addiction with prescription pills. Brett Favre. Brett Favre wasn't just another quarterback. He was the face of the NFL for nearly 2 decades. Coming out of southern Mississippi, Favre wasn't polished or hyped, but he had a cannon arm and reckless confidence that immediately stood out. After being drafted by the Atlanta Falcons in 1991 and barely seeing the field, he was traded to the Green Bay Packers in 1992. That move changed NFL history. Favre became the Packers starter almost instantly and revived a dead franchise. He led Green Bay to 2 Super Bowl appearances, won Super Bowl 31, earned 3 consecutive MVP awards, and became one of the most durable players the league had ever seen. On Sundays, he was fearless, tough, and seemingly indestructible. Off the field, he was slowly becoming addicted. Favre's drug addiction began during the prime of his career. As injuries piled up, so did prescriptions. He became dependent on Vicodin, a powerful painkiller, and his use escalated quickly. By his own admission, Favre was taking up to 14 or 15 Vicodin pills at once during the mid-1990s. At the same time, Favre was also abusing alcohol. He drank heavily and regularly, often to excess. In 1996, his addiction became impossible to hide when he suffered a seizure related to withdrawal and was hospitalized. That incident forced him into inpatient rehab for the first time. Even then, the addiction didn't immediately end. Favre later admitted that he had been using prescription pills for nearly 3 years before entering treatment. Incredibly, Favre was still playing elite football while addicted. One of his MVP seasons came during the height of his pill abuse, but the success didn't stop the damage. In 1998, he returned to rehab again, this time specifically for alcohol addiction. His wife gave him an ultimatum: stop drinking or lose his family. Favre quit alcohol, but continued to battle the mental grip of addiction. By his own words, quitting pills was brutal. He described months of shaking, cold sweats, and constant cravings. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section, and before you leave, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to NFL Rivals so you don't miss the next ones.